On today's episode of Resilient Business, I'm thrilled to have Dr. Sean Drake of Athlete Chiropractic in Scottsdale. And I've known Sean now for about a year and a half, 2 years, and recently visited Scottsdale with my son Jacob. And Sean and Dallas treated us like family, and so we really appreciate that. Wanted to have you on the show today, Sean. How you doing?
Good, buddy. Yeah, it's a lot more hot than when you were here. Less windy.
Yep.
Um, Things are going good. Definitely growing. So not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to have you on the show just because, you have a unique story. You have a lot to say, bring a lot of value to the table. Unique, diversified, there's a lot to it. We may actually have to do a couple of parts to this episode. So, yeah, why don't you just jump into letting us know what you're into, the different businesses you're involved with, and sort of what's first and foremost, and kind of maybe start out by how you evolved into what you're doing today.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is obviously I own a new clinic here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's called Athlete Chiropractic, and it's my first brick and mortar in over almost 6 years. Prior to that, and we'll get into this I guess as we go. I was on the road with a lot of professional athletes, traveling on as a team doctor, head physician, medical director, a lot of event medicine, performance, working with On Base U, Rack Fit, and TPI with Dr. Rose. So traveling the world, helping other professionals in medical, coaching, fitness, learn how to actually assess the athlete instead of saying we're in sports medicine, looking at that sports performance component. So what I've done is now we're taking all of that knowledge through the last 10 years of my life in the biohacking world, really looking at the utilization of technology, subjective and objective approaches to the athlete or human performance, and then now bringing that into a clinic so that the population can benefit from what so many professionals have the opportunity and access to.
Yeah. Excellent. So, yeah, so you spent a lot of time on the road. Now you're kind of stationary for part of the time. And
Yeah.
so, how has that change been for you so far?
So it was, I mean, had COVID not happened, I don't think I'd have a brick and mortar right now, to be honest with you. And I thought that getting back into a routine has been tough. I'll just be straightforward, being locked in a building in four walls, 14 hours a day, depending on your day. But what's great about what I do is like tomorrow, for instance, I have an IndyCar racer racing in Ohio. So he was called up, so I'm flying to Ohio tomorrow. So I'll be with him for 3 days, getting him prepped and prepared. And then beyond that, working with the professional golfers and baseball players. But it's really looking at, it's not about what we do here in the clinic. It's about building a bridge outside of the clinic. And so, like, for instance, one of my golfers, Tom Pernice, that we've been able to get onto Pulse, and he loves it in the, electromagnetic therapy that we're doing with him on top of the therapy. But now I can find practitioners all over the country that I can put him with. And so what's unique about what I've been able to do through the TPI world and our experts is be able to say, hey, I've got an athlete that's playing in Arkansas next week. Let me see if I can find an expert that I can send them to. So when we're practitioners, is putting the ego aside and saying, hey, what's best for this athlete? How can we help this athlete perform in the clinic, outside the clinic, and more importantly, in life?
Yeah, excellent. And so timely with COVID. I'm similar. I needed to find ways to scale and virtualize my business and utilize networks that I had built relationships into. And so you're doing a lot of that and leveraging things that exist, sort of infrastructures that exist to bring the most value to your clients and players and performers. So, yeah, no, that's great. And you recently moved, right? From California to Arizona?
Yeah, so I was in San Diego, working out at TPI with our On Base U baseball, softball side, and Racket Fit, our tennis side. I don't know if you can say really living in California. I was gone about 40 weeks a year, but yeah, living there, and had a really interesting life. Being able to travel the world and really consult and look at some of the best athletes and get the best data and see kind of what the best of the best can do. Look at the limitations that they may have, and then being able to put all those approaches together and say, okay, this is how we can, put a screen together for, the pitcher. This is how we can put the screen together for the hitter. We're looking at a catcher, like baseball, softball, and tennis, partnering with the USPTA and really being able to help those tennis professionals look for physical limitations like TPI has done so well with the golf world. I mean, you look at Phil Mickelson, he just said on, when he won the championship, PGA championship, he said the reason this has, been able to happen is because of what TPI has done and really creating the system that puts a team around him. So, you have that fitness professional that can look and say, okay, these are the physical limitations you have, and these are the opportunities we have. And then it's saying, all right, well, here's a medical provider that can work on you from a medical approach. And then more importantly, having that golf professional, which is Dave Phillips, be able to actually know exactly what he needs to do for Phil. And so many people in this world need that. They need to be able to set like, and the number one thing that I've learned from their approach is, look, there's not one way to swing a club. There's not one way to move. There's an infinite number of ways, but there's one efficient way for you to move, and it's based on what you can physically do. And so many times as practitioners, we have this style that we've been taught, like, oh, you know what, you got a knee injury, let's focus on the knee, or you've got a hip injury, we're going to focus on the hip. Well, here's the deal: is like nobody is the same as the other person. And one thing that if you look at radiology, atypical is the norm. So we're not symmetrical. And so the thing is, you've got to look at every single person that comes in front of you as a different individual. You can't have a style of what you think they should be able to do. You've got to be able to see what they can do and then come up with a plan beyond that.
Yeah, excellent. And I've seen you do that. I've seen you in action. And your big thing is, I think your big thing is the way somebody moves is how well they'll perform. And so you want people to be able to increase their ability to move in the proper ways. If someone walks into let's go back to the brick and mortar for a second. If someone were to walk through the door at Athlete Chiropractic right next to you right now, and for their first appointment, what's the first thing that you would take them through or do with them?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I do is a history. You've got to see where they're at. One thing that I learned from the Stecos at Fascial Manipulation is old is gold. And so a lot of times we don't think about these bumps, bruises, emotional trauma, things that we've done in the past that are affecting where we're at now in an environment. So I think taking a proper history is probably the best thing you can do as a clinician or even a fitness professional or coach. From there, I'm like, all right, I give them our philosophies and we go over the philosophy of the human body. I want to make sure they understand the expectation that we have in this clinic and that we meet their expectations. Because, you never want to start a relationship off with that one person having like, oh, I'm here for back pain, but that's the only reason I'm here. And you got to be like, hey, this isn't about back pain. So you got to make sure that philosophy is given. And then from there, we take them through a selective functional movement assessment. Everyone goes through an SFMA upper tier. From those limitations, we break them out. And depending on if it's sports specific, I'll bring in TPI for golf. I'll bring in On Base U for baseball. I'll bring in Racket Fit. I'll bring in some of the other hockey stuff or, techniques that I've learned from other people in the weightlifting world. So I'll bring in these sports specific movements to make sure they can do what they can do. And then from there, we get them on the table. We'll go through see if it's okay. Is this really a joint tissue issue? Is this a brain issue? Maybe motor control. And then from there, we come up with a plan. And so I'll say, all right, now there's 3 things that can affect this mobility. Now we're going to maybe look at the joint tissue and motor control. Let's work on some stuff. But if we don't see things clearing up, then I'm thinking it's potentially chemical, right? And so now we're maybe going to look at blood work. We're going to look at, okay, some of the other things that are going on. Is this bacterial, viral? Is their ability to recover fast? So that's really where we bring in a lot of the tools that we have in our clinic, and so I'm like, look, I can work on you, but if the cells don't have the ability to help you recover quicker and your muscles to actually function and tissue to heal, then it's not really going to work to the best of your ability, right? So that's when you've taught me this tremendously on the electromagnetic side, pulse electromagnetic, is that now I'm like, look, I can actually cellular exercise work with you and help you actually clean out your system, perform. I can help you recover. I can charge you up. So I've got different people now in different situations where I'm like, hey, you're getting ready to go work out. You're going to come into your appointment. We're going to get you moving. We're going to do some movement to actually train that movement. And then I'm going to put you on the pulse before you go out. So now your body's ready to go perform, right? And then I've got the others that they're flying in from, maybe 3 weeks on the road from LPGA or PGA or maybe a mini tour. And now they come in here and I'm like, all right, we're going to work on you. And then we're going to actually we're going to bring you down. We're going to actually help you regulate. We're going to get you to relax. We're going to get your body to calm down. And so from there, now I can say, okay, cool, boom, good to go. Then we'll put them in hyperbaric chambers, potentially depending on where we want to oxygenate the body. Laser, brain tap, if we're looking at mindset performance there, looking at their, alpha, delta, beta, gamma, depending on what we want them to get into at that time, theta. So now we can put the body, the mind, and the sport all together.
Yep. So a really holistic approach to the whole person and, using tools around physical, around movement, around high performance, energy, mental, all of that. So unique, great approach. I love it. I love the fact that you've been using the PEMF. Have you had any specific stories around the PEMF? Anything you've seen so far? Anything that you'd want to point to?
Yeah, I think the two things that I think are big for me is I almost feel like I'm creating a new technique using this product, right? Like, so for instance, I can actually take my athletes now and put them into different positions, utilizing the. I love the accessories of y'all's product, to be honest with you. And so now I can actually put it on. You can actually strap it down. It's not this hard, clunky thing, and then it's comfortable, right? And so that's a big component as well. Like when people are able to get onto the system and just be like, look, this is comfortable. I want to do this. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is like, sometimes you can have something that people want to do or that's really good for them, but if it's not comfortable and it's not exciting and they're like, then I don't want to do it. Then that's going to be a barrier. Well, this is like a lack of barrier, right? It's like, no, I love to be on this thing. Like I see the benefit. I see this as part of my routine and my lifestyle. The other thing is like being able to, see, Whoop data. And what's been interesting for me is I've had 3 or 4 of my athletes that are like, dude, I don't know what you're doing. Obviously, we're adjusting and we're working on the parasympathetic nervous system. But the only thing that I've added onto their, plans now is putting them onto the pulse and putting it up to like 7.78, jacking it up, and then letting them go for an hour. And then the next day, they're like, dude, my recovery score was unbelievable last night. So to me, I'm like, all right, we need to definitely do a study on this because, whether it's, looking at, Aura, Whoop, I think there's another one called Fit. Um, what's the name of it? I just looked at it. I was going to bring it up on here for you because I was like, I don't know if you've heard of it. Anyways, we'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I really think that that's a big, big thing that we need to be looking at is recovery. It's and so many people are talking about like, sleep's one of the most important things. Well, if I can get somebody on here and all of a sudden get their system to calm down and relax, well, then healing is going to happen. So that's probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and the thing I've been talking about a lot with people these days, especially athletes, is that it's cellular exercise, but it's passive.
Yeah.
And so you touched on it. It's like people don't want to do something that they actually have to take part in necessarily, especially if they're using a lot of their time to train and practice and perform and play and recover and all of that. If they can do something while they're doing something else that's relaxing, such as watch a movie or watch a game, because a lot of these people, they go home at night and they watch a game. If you can help them recover while they're doing something they were already going to be doing, then that's an added bonus to it too. So I like the passivity around it. I'm so glad you guys are using that. You're catching on to it, seeing some results, and I love the fact that you want to take some objective metrics and apply it to the ability of the pulse. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done. I mean, if you look at let's just take a swing for instance, like golf, right? A lot of times we have to get somebody primed and ready to go. And so we've got, our movement patterns, our dynamic warm up, we've got our chops, our pulls, we've got all these different things that we get them ready to go and, go to war on the course. But what's neat about this is so we can do that, but then we can also put them on this. And then now we can get areas to actually function that may have not been functioning. And so not only that, but if it's going to calm the body, it's going to calm the mind. And I'm coming back to the mind because the more and more that I'm getting into this, brick and mortar world again, we have a lot of sick people, and not a lot of sick people, not necessarily from a disease, but mentally. I mean, you look at COVID, what happened over the last year, the amount of stress and all these other things that are going on. Most people just need to sit the heck down and take 30 or 40 minutes and just rest. And so if you have a product or you have an opportunity to be able to do this with them, it's amazing. They give you a hug and they're like, dude, I haven't felt this good in a long time. And all you did is really just lay them down, give them a little bit of love through energy. And then more importantly, like give them a hug on the way out if you're into hugging, but like give them some epigenetic love. And then all of a sudden they're like, holy crap, this is amazing. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to have something like that. And, when you're in a position to allow somebody to stop going, go in our society, that's all we really do. And we think in order to achieve, we have to be overactive basically.
Yeah.
And you bring such a good point up about resting, and people intuitively know in the back of their mind that the better I rest, the better I'll perform. But yet all they want to do is keep performing. And so if you can enhance their ability to rest, and it's counterintuitive, by putting energy into the body, you're enhancing the person's ability to rest. People don't usually think of that. It's a little bit counterintuitive. So No, it's great that you're recognizing that and utilizing it. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Cool. Um, what else? I mean, do you want to get into anything else around anything else you're involved with? How about Evolution DG? Would you like to chat about
Yeah,
that for a
so,
minute?
Evo is a really cool company that it's a startup, and what we're doing is it's an investor-based company. So it's like the average person can invest in this company to help young, talented athletes, get the proper team around them. What Phil Mickelson has, what John Rahm has. A lot of these young kids don't have that opportunity, whether it's through donations or whatever it is. But what we do is now that Stephen Kupcho is one of our athletes, in golf right now. And we're using Pulse with him. He'll be seeing Tom in Denver. And whenever I can get our athletes on this as part of it. But obviously you're going to be in IndyCar racing. We're in combat sports, so boxing, MMA. So it's really putting a new philosophy on how to help athletes get to where they want to be that may not have the financial backing. And then so through our process, we're able to pick these athletes, and then when they win, the investors win. So whatever their prize money might be, a percentage of that comes back to the investors. And then there's going to be events, there's going to be opportunities for those investors to be able to get to and be a part of. And so there's a tangible, unique approach when you have a fan who loves sport, but now they have an opportunity to be involved in the sport, and be a part of saying, hey, I'm part of a race team, or I'm part of a golfer, or I'm part of this. It really brings some ownership into the love of the sport, and it gives you somebody to root for. I think a lot of times too. So in the world that we're going into, sports getting more expensive. Travel's expensive. I know, with your son, being able to, get him on these mini tours and getting him in, there's a lot that goes into it. And so we've got to come up with a better system to help the younger talented people that could make it. And so that's what we're doing there.
So cool. It's such a cool business model, and it's an excellent offering because financial assistance is one thing.
Mhm.
You know, preparing someone or basically funding someone's experience to be able to enter events and travel and things like that. But being able to plug them into an environment or an ecosystem of care and coaching and training and all of those pieces that go with it, especially for an individual sport like golf or tennis and the things that you're involved with, in a lot of ways, those athletes are a lot of times looking for ways, especially the ones that don't come out of the university scenario. They're not necessarily plugged into all of those networks right out of the box, and they spend a lot of time and effort and energy and money, trying trial and error, trying things that fail, and trying to figure out who would be the best person to help me with this, who would be the best assistants for this. And you're actually plugging them into a system, from what I understand, where they'd have that team potentially around them.
For sure. I mean, just give Stephen, for example. We brought him on. I was able to get him out to TPI. Dr. Greg Rose, was able to go through him, figure out, okay, these are the areas that, are inefficient. Beyond that, putting our approach with, THP in Scottsdale and Mitch Sadowski down in Florida, putting a, workout program together for him. And then now bringing him to send him out to standard process at the research facility over in, North Carolina. And they were able to take his blood, put him through VO2 max, look at his, DNA, look at his heart, look at his vascular. And so they put this whole entire project together to say, look, these are where we can help you in DEXA scans. And then beyond that, going through the medical approach with myself and my team, now we have this huge database of saying, okay, these are where the limitations are. These are the opportunities. And then saying, hey, this is what you're going to take nutritionally. This is what you're going to eat while you're on the road. This is what you're going to be doing every day. This is going to be your workout. And so many kids just don't have that opportunity. And so now that we have that, now we can regulate it, and we can track this over time and say, okay, these are the things that are working, these are the things that aren't. And that's really where you have experts in each sport. And so when we're looking, we've got our team in Las Vegas for our combat. We've obviously got our team in Florida and Indy for our IndyCar racers. And then as we expand our sports, we'll bring more people on in the specialization. But for anybody that's out there, my thing is like, look, if you want your kid to develop, you've got to find people in those sports that understand the language of that sport. You got to find a medical provider. Like when I put you in touch with Chad down, in Alpharetta, I sent you to him because I know he knows how to look at a golfer. You know what I mean? I know he's one of our level 3s in TPI. So I'm not going to skimp when somebody asks me to do something with a player. I'm going to say, look, this is what you need to go do because this guy knows that sport. Just because they're a sports chiropractor, sports physio, doesn't mean they understand what your kid needs to do. So find an expert that really understands that sport and is passionate about it, because they're going to be more apt and understanding of maybe why your son's not developing or maybe your daughter's not developing or why they're in pain. And that'll really help them out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great advice. Um, so yeah, we've covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time here. And so is there anything else that you want to chat about today or promote before we kind of wrap up and share contact info?
I think the biggest thing is stay tuned for some of the stuff that Joe, Tom, and I are going to be doing. There's some fun
Mhm.
stuff that, especially if you're looking at magnifying opportunity for your clinics or your fitness facility, and you want to work with more people in human performance. In our philosophy in this clinic is, look, if you got a body, you're an athlete. But if you really want to help propel that next generation of people, stay tuned because we've got some different scenarios and opportunities coming up that I think you're going to want to pay attention to.
Yeah, I definitely want to have you on again, and let's look at some of the results that we're talking about, going for here. So, looking forward to that. How do people reach you, Dr.
Yeah,
Sean, if they're interested in chatting with you about anything?
yeah, Dr. Sean Drake at athletechiropractic.com. You can call us at our office. Always get back to you within 24 hours. So 602-810-6664. We have a lot of athletes that, fly in and get assessed. We put a program plan together and then we send them back out. And then obviously this fall, Vision 54 for Lynn and Pia and Christine and Tiffany. We're going to be launching a 4-week program. They have their online program. If you're ever wanting to learn how to have better course management, there's some cool stuff that's going to be happening there. And then doing some, very strategic events with some very cool people. So stay tuned for that.
Excellent. Well, we'll put some links below, whatever you'd like us to share, and people can access that way too. Folks, if you like what you see on Resilient Business, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my affiliates and other partnerships below for some great products and great discounts. And Dr. Drake, we really appreciate your time today, and we can't wait to have you back again. Thanks you for being on Resilient Business.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right.